In this video help, we're going to be covering the main screen, which is called the parent, and then all the subscreens or child screens. We're going to be using the menu options up above to go ahead and go through those screens. We're currently in the property owner management screen, which has been covered prior, and all the individual screens here are mostly child screens that reflect information back into this screen using the primary key, which is the number up here. The linking relationship is actually carried across to the subscreens or child screens. Now, be aware that child screens, you should be not deleting records in the parent screen like this one. You would never really go ahead and take out the main parent screen because you'll abandon or what you call orphan each one of the records that are in the subscreens. Let's go ahead and walk through some of these screens so we can see what's actually going on, starting with the ones that we haven't looked at maybe, and we're going to cover them in this tutorial. Let's go to the property investment screen. And basically on the left-hand side of the screen we just came from, you saw the financials, and this is the individual portal records for that individual record for that particular property address, and the owner, and the unit, and the date of the termination for that particular lease. Now recall that each time you create a new property entity for a particular period of time, you're going to recreate that property again for the new tenant. Each time there's a tenant, you'll add a new tenant for that property. Okay, let's take a look at the property table view. The property table is an individual table that I put in here just for people that like to see this kind of information in a table view. It's very helpful as far as being able to see it linearly as opposed to seeing it as a form. Let's go back in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go back down to the property list view, which is the next one, property management list view. So this is a list of each property. In the listings, you'll see that they have a property ID for each one of them, the description, and for example, if you had multiple properties on that same location, say like in this case, the Olmos Towers, you would have each individual record for each individual unit and the location where it's at, and in this case, state or province or country. And you can see here, this is another one, it's kind of a catch-all record. If you are editing this application as a new user, you'll be going in and overwriting the information in the property management screen for each of these two properties, and then moving on. As you overwrite the information, you can go into the individual records and either delete the portal records, which are the child records, and then move through each one and add your own data, and then continue on from there. If you pick a property and do a find using the button down here and start a find, you can fill in the information when it goes blank as far as what you're looking for, or you can use any of the data that's in these rows, like you can go to the property ID and or the property address, city, location, and unit, and then say perform the find. When you get done using the record, when you do a find, always go back and show all records again. And of course you can cycle through the records in each one of these areas, or you can get technical support if you need it. You can also omit a record from a find that you've already done and say, okay, I want to omit it for whatever reason. Maybe you don't want it showing in the particular record that you want to print or something like that. You can omit it. You can omit multiple, or you can reverse it and show all the ones that you have omitted so that you can see those records that were omitted. And that would be the reverse of that. Okay, click anywhere off it to go ahead. Let's go up to the property again. And this time we're looking at the photos. And in this particular case, we're looking at the description. And you can add a date for when this picture was added. And again, the property ID is for the photo, so that is the property number 1. If you go over and you do a jump over here and go down to the next record, you're going to see that you can go down and walk through all the pictures for that particular property. Or you can do a find and just bring up one property and go through only its pictures, and we're going to show you another way to manage those as well. When you go to the property list view, you'll see all those pictures that are in all the properties, the date that they were added, the property description, and the photo, the address for the property, the unit, and the individual unit ID. And in this case, you can go down through, this is samples. You can delete these if you want to from the record where you just saw the delete button. For each one of these, you would just go in and say, show the record, click the delete button, and take it out if you don't want to use it in your new application you're working with. So let's go down to the next screen, which is the owner data. And the owner data is one of those screens you saw on the manager screen where you have all the information for that particular property that was in a portal record on a popover. And this is where you would do searches on that information to see particular properties. You can bring them up, and if you went to the list view for the property owner, then you would see that information for whatever search you did using the find, do find over here to see that. And then remember, always when you get done, go back and show all the records again so that you can see them all in the list view. Let's go to the next property. In this case, we're going to go down to the property owner report. Now, the owner report, if you go up and you want to see all the information, now these particular information up here will not print when you go to print. It'll be hidden. But if you make a PDF of this, the PDF will show this at the top of the screen because PDFs are not the same as print screens. Okay, you'll see that when you do a find in this screen by doing a find, you also have a run report. Anytime you're in a report, there will be a run report which will bring back the headers if you've done a find and then present the headers so that you can see all the data. If I do a find in here now, all you're going to see is the rows and maybe one line in here. So you need to do a show all to bring back all the data. Now, using reports is very simplistic, actually. You do not do a find in the headers. You only do it in the body, which is the gray areas. And what you can do is you can see the header information for this as far as the data is concerned, but not the main header up here when you're going through it when you are done doing the find. So you would run the report to bring them back, but you use the body fields to do your search. And anything that is named up here and you have the information for it, you can go ahead and search on that. For example, like the owner IDs are for the properties that you're looking at. And these are property 2, this is property number 1, and the unit, and so forth. Now, all that same information is repeated here where you can go ahead and look through and find that information as far as the owner. In this particular case, if there's something in there, the numerics for the property owner, for debits and credits, you're going to see it was an inspection. There was one of them and it cost $125. Or if it is a bill where you're going to bill the tenant or renter, this would show up over here as income to the owner. So this is cost to the owner, this is income. And in this case, the total for that record is this. Now, if you add a number of records, you're going to see a summary, a sub-summary at the bottom, and then a grand total at the bottom for whatever reports information you have in the selection. Typically, what you want to do in a report is you want to look up one property, one tenant, and look at the information for that tenant and print it. If you have any other questions about using this report, you can always contact tech support. Thank you. Let's go down now to the owner property list view where we were before, and you can see that the owner property list view has the property, the owner, the management company, and the managed by person or company. So you have that information. Again, you can always search on the record ID, the property, the owner, or the management company information. Okay, let's go down now. We're going to the property management screen. Now the property management screen, which this is a portal record for the one that you saw on the main property management screen, shows the transactions that are things like inspections or items where you go in and on inspection. You're going to take a individual new record for each one of those that are related to some kind of a repair or service that needs to be done. If you go in and you do a complete inspection and you don't find anything, you'd still create a record indicating that you did do the inspection, and any notes, signature if you need to get it from the tenant or renter to sign off if there are problems that they recognize or know that there was a problem. So you would print the screen and go ahead and get them to sign off on it. Then going down to the next thing, we're looking at the property management list screen where each property issue that you found or inspection or whatever it might be shows up on this screen, and you can do a find. For example, the inspection date, the tenant occupancy date, either one of these. This is a departing inspection or coming in inspection, and this is the occupancy date to which they started the property lease or rental. And then it's the manager that took that information for that property ID. Okay, let's go down to the property owner portal. Again, this is the property owner information as far as each individual record where you're doing expenses and credits. And you can, I don't suggest that you delete any of these. It's possible to do it, you can, but it's not a good idea to delete any information that has to do with billing. It doesn't give you a good review as far as the actual property information. You want to keep this for historicals. And as you saw in the property management screen, this information is used to show the total summations of expenses and income. So you want to make sure, and billing, that this is still always retained behind, so you don't ever delete those. Okay, let's go down here to the next one, which is the property owner portal screen we're in now, and we're going to go to the manager's report. And now in the manager's report, it was the one where we do the inspections and as you're going in and out. And also, if you had a picture that was related to that you wanted to be able to see, you could just click on this and it would bring it up, and you could see a larger view of that individual image for that screen that you wanted to review. Or you can hit the portal button and go to that portal record to see that information. Again, you can always go over here and run the report to bring back the headers if you need to. You can get tech support, and you can also go in and see the actual video for this screen and or do omit or not omit. Okay, let's go back, and now we're going down to the property tenant portal screen. This is the individual portal information for each transaction that is done for, say, a deposit or a rental or lease payment or anything that's billed to the tenant or renter. And this is the portal record. You can delete these if there are errors in them, or you need to replace them with information that is correct if there was one that did not have proper information. But you need to make sure that you don't delete these if it's accurate information. This is historical information as far as payment and billing. You do not want to change that. And this is all summed up back again in the property management screen for the particular owner for the property. And this is property ID number 2 and the name of it and the date that the current transaction or current date that this was done. Okay, let's go down to the property tenant billing information report. And in this, you're going to see the tenant billing report. And again, if you're doing a PDF, these would be retained. If you're not, and you're just going to print it, I would suggest what you do is go ahead and, again, find the tenant that you want to do it for the period for that tenant, and use the body text, which is this, in this area like this. That's the information you want to use when you're doing the lookup for that particular property person. You can either do it by the property itself, the person, the billing date, the billing due date, the billing paid date, the amount that was paid if you can want it. Amount's not really something you do a search for, but typically all this information would bring up the report for this particular person, and you can always put a billing date or date range in there. For example, if you wanted to show a summary of maybe the last 6 months of payments for the tenant and they're asking for that, what you would do is a date range calculation so that you can provide them with a listing of the last 6 months, the summary for it, and the grand total, which would come down to the bottom of the screen, summarized as far as that particular list of payments. And it would also show any of the negative payments as far as billing amounts that are still owed. So that is for that particular report. Let's go down now to the property maintenance screen, which is the individual transaction information for repair with a service company or organization that is shown back on the management screen and in the portal where you're putting the information for the individual records. And you don't create them in here. If you go over and look, you'll see you can add a new record here, but you should be doing it in the main screen within the portal record area. Let's go down to the next one, which is the property maintenance list view. And again, this is all the transactions that are being done for the individual properties by their property ID and the time and date of their appointments and the appointment thing that is going to be concluded at the location where the property is. And this is usually used if you want to schedule or look what's scheduled or look into the future of what's scheduled in order to in order to find the information where things are coming up that have done in the past, currently, or in the future. The property service company, you can add the service companies in this screen or in the portal and the management screen where you're adding a service company as far as the information for the service company, and you can delete them in this area. You can see there is no add new button over in this area. The service status, this is a scrolling area where you have a scrolling field, drop-down list, and this is where you would edit when you're on an iPad. You would want to edit this. You would go ahead and edit it from the screen. And as I stated with these scrollers, if you've used any of the data that's currently in these, do not overwrite this or change it, because it's used and it will change into whatever screen it's in to whatever you change it to. So always add a new record if you're going to add anything in here, or edit a new one that you're bringing up that has not been used yet if you need to change it. Okay, the list of statuses. Going down to the property report. Now this is actually two screens in one. This is a a landscape print of the report, and you can do a do find over here to see the information in a area where you want it by either the property or the tenant or whatever information you want as far as that's concerned, using any of the fields in the body area, which is this area right here that you can highlight and see. So you would do a find and then pick whatever the information is that you want to use it by for the repairs that are currently available. And then if you need to see a more detailed version of this report that is not printed, go ahead and go away from the print version, and you can see this detailed record for the property financial report. And basically what this does is it adds a number of pieces of information from the financial report and gives you a better view of that particular piece of property as far as all the aspects of income and all that kind of stuff for all the different things that are going on. It summarizes them for the record itself for each property, and then all the transactions that are occurring for each one of the properties, sub-summary, and then at the very end of the property thing, it will do a grand summary. And it's a good idea when you're doing this to pick a particular property for a particular tenant over a particular range, and that way you get a report that gives you the sub-summary and the grand summary report for all the property financials. If you have any questions about how to use anything that I've just gone through, you can always contact us by going down to the tech support, clicking on the link and opening up the website and adding things either as far as chat, or you can request it by email to get a walkthrough using Skype. I recommend using Skype because I can see exactly what you're doing on your screen if that's a device that is supported in Skype, and I can tell you what to do, or I can show you my screen and walk through it and give you the answers that you're looking for. Thank you.